Okay, buying in a new city. Well, it's easy to fall in love with the home and overlook those hidden details that can break your experience. I'm Gina Odom. I've been selling real estate for the last 20 years, and I have bought and sold in many different states. And I'm going to walk you through some things that some buyers just forget to check or ask about. So I don't want you to regret your purchase. Let's jump in. The first thing I want to talk about is water. And, let's start there. In some areas, water rights and usage can be a big deal. And don't assume it's unlimited. You might buy a house that's connected to city public water system, but you might have an issue when you go to rebuild or if you're adding on to your house or remodeling. So you want to make sure you check into that. Also, check in, are you connected to city water or is it a well? Is it a shared well? Those are questions you definitely want to get answered. And if it is a well, make sure you have your well inspected so that you can see the flow rate and the water quality. Number 2, local rules and ordinances. And each county and city has their own unique ordinances. And some are even called point of sale requirements. So when you go to sell your home, these ordinances have to be taken care of. In some places, it could be septic inspection, sewer inspection. It can be low flow, drought tolerant, it can be low flow shower heads and toilets. It can be about septic. It can be about earthquake retrofitting. So make sure you check into the point of sale ordinances that county has and that city has. Rental restrictions. So number 3, if you might not be wanting to rent your home now, but maybe in the future you will. And so you do want to check into it. Now these can change year after year depending on the area. So, but you can check in with your county and the city and find out what their local rules are around Airbnb. That would be a short-term rental or long-term rentals. So make sure you're clear about that and you know what the rule is when you buy and maybe what's coming down the pipeline. Schools and communities. So sometimes you will see, even in the advertisement, that a certain house is part of a school district. Now, those lines sometimes get redrawn, and the algorithm might be pulling from the last known set of data, which could be wrong. So you can simply call the school and confirm that you are still indeed in the school district area. And I suggest doing that because I have seen it change. Seasonal and location-specific concerns. So if you're buying, say you're moving from California to Oregon and all of a sudden you're going to be in seasons, well, it might snow where you live. So you want to make sure you understand the seasons, but also the maintenance around the seasons. So if you are in an area that's going to be snowing, who's going to be taking care of the road maintenance? If you're on a private road, is that something that all the neighbors pitch in for? Is that something you're going to have to maintain? What is it? And also fires. So the fire issue is so prevalent everywhere. You want to find out if you're in a high fire zone. And you can do that through a natural hazard report. You can also look online at fire zone maps. But if you are in a high fire zone, I would look to see if your neighborhood is participating in it's called a FireWise neighborhood. And FireWise is something that all the neighbors can get together and do. And oftentimes it leads to a discount for your insurance. But most of all, it just makes your area that much safer. So you want to look into that. And also in some areas, in areas you might not even think, you could be in a flood zone. You want to check that and you want to find out how much that's going to cost in insurance if you are buying into a flood zone. And then property specific questions. In California, you get what we call a TDS or an SBQ, and they are the seller documents. It's what the seller knows about the property, and they fill those out completely. and you can look those over and then ask any questions you have. But in some areas, they might not have those documents. And so you really want to make sure you're asking thorough questions about the property. And I would start with history of repairs. Has the person used permits? What about a septic report, roof, any major systems, HVAC system? You want to just check in on those, see how old they are, see if there's been any problems that the seller can recall. I would also ask the seller about neighborhood nuisances. Like, is there bears in your yard? Do they show up? Do you need a bear-proof trash can? Are there loud neighbors? Are there any issues with the neighbors? Now, this can change. Neighbors can move and they can move out, move in, but at least you're getting their perspective from when they lived there. Also, easements on the property. Now, if you're pulling a title report, there should be easement links, if any, in that report. You want to make sure you understand the easements. Easements can cause a lot of problems between neighbors. And so if there are easements, you want to make sure you understand them, and you want to make sure that there's been no issues with neighbors around these easements in the past. And buying in a new area is exciting, but it does come with some unique homework. And you can't always rely on your realtor or even the seller to give you all the information. So you really want to make sure you're checking with that county website, the city rules, and getting familiar with the area. You can also sometimes check in with the title company about the point of sale ordinances, but you should surely be able to find those online if your title company is not able to help you. And if you found this information helpful, hit subscribe and drop your questions in the comments. I love to hear where you're considering moving and why. Like I said, I have been in the business for over 20 years and I do like buying properties. And I've bought a lot outside of California. Good to talk to you, and reach out if you have any questions. Also, happy to vet any realtor you're going to, any place you're going to. I can vet any of the realtors and make sure that you are working with someone of high caliber.